for showing up this evening. This is a really wonderful turnout. We couldn't be more excited to have you in our audience. My name is Anna Knowles. For those of you who have not met me, I am the high school literacy teacher and the SLE teacher this year here at RIMSL. Just to go over a brief overview of what the SLE is. The SLE, or the Senior Learning Experience, is a very special program that facilitates high school students to the wider world and is a capstone to the expeditionary learning model. I have been privileged to work with the senior class since August, a group of hard-working and passionate students I admire for their dedication to service. I know firsthand how hard these seniors have been working and continue to work for their community. Thankfully, they have accepted me this year, and I am grateful for all of their help and support, seeing that is my first year here at RIMSL, so thank you guys. Tonight, I invite you to sit back, relax, and take in the many wonderful experiences that they will share with you. But first, I also just wanted to mention that we are recording this evening, and so there is no need for you to record and have your arm get sore if that may be the case, because we will be posting this live on our YouTube channel by Monday. So just know that we will have those links for you should you wish to seek them out. Without further ado, allow me to introduce our first speaker this evening. Please give a warm welcome to Faye Bath.
Is it on? Okay. Hi. Oh. Okay. Ritual is something that is found in every aspect of life. I would even argue that the act of living is one big ritual. Think about it. At 16, we learn to drive. We have prom and graduation ceremonies. At 21, we drink. Every year, we celebrate birthdays and holidays. We go through all of these milestones, anxious to reach the next. In a way, we are very much guided by these rituals and procedures that we live our lives by. Even this presentation is a milestone reached, signifying the end of my high school career. Hi, my name is Faye Bath, and for my SLE, I became a beekeeper. Okay, you're probably wondering, Faye, what does beekeeping have to do with ritual? Where is the connection? Well, let me break it down for you. Beekeeping is complex and difficult, and there are layers to each aspect of starting and maintaining a hive. And each expert has their own style of beekeeping, their own procedures that they follow religiously. These are the processes they use to ensure that their bees are able to thrive, and every beekeeper does it differently. Okay. This is Kaisa. She's a beekeeper based in Hilo, Hawaii, and she approaches beekeeping in a very unique way, starting with her belief about her role with the bees and the connection that the two of them share. She likes to do regular maintenance on her hive in a bikini, often omitting her protective gear, and she doesn't find bee suits necessary. She never shies away from being stung, as many beekeepers learn to do with time, because, bees sting. But unlike other keepers, she welcomes the poisonous wounds, believing that the bees are more in touch with our bodies than we are, and that they'll sting you intuitively in places needing attention. And this is Momi. She is also a beekeeper based in Hilo, Hawaii, and she would not go near a hive without her protective suit. She's extremely cautious about her maintenance practices, and she's much less spiritually focused on the bees than Kaisa is. Just to paint the full picture, we're about to do the same task in these photos, and this is how Kaisa dressed us. Shout out Eli. And this is how Momi dressed us. Same task, different safety precautions. So all of this is to show that rituals created by each expert help them to feel comfortable with the process they go through when they beekeep. The routine they have mastered keeps them grounded, and it helps them to reach their end goal. The ideology behind taking different paths to ultimately get to the same destination, or to gain the same product, or to reach the same goal, is completely applicable to every aspect of life. High school, for example. This is one of the most variable experiences that people all over the world complete in different ways, ultimately to gain the same thing, a diploma. The experience of a RIMSL high schooler is a unique experience through and through. While for a lot of students, the only milestones they have to guide them through school are dances and finals. But at RIMSL, we have the rituals of going on trips to signify the passage of time and the reaching of each milestone. One of the biggest rituals Remsel has is the senior solo. The Remsel trips we get to go on from the time we're freshmen give us the knowledge and skill set needed to accomplish the final task of camping completely alone for 48 hours. To us, the seniors, this is the promised land. And this year, as seniors, we fought to have our solos put back on the itinerary when they were taken off to accommodate another trip. We advocated for them, and our administration listened. Ultimately, our solos had to be cut short because of a storm blowing through the state, but this wound up to be a gift in disguise. And that's when we took our solos into our own hands. A group of 10, including myself, executed our solos without the support of Remsel. And while having half of a solo experience under our belts, we set off to replicate the milestones as closely as we could. We stayed true to the strict procedures that the solos required. We ditched our technology, we lost track of time, and we brought no distractions except for an empty journal to keep track of our thoughts. Like this. This is us on solos. To me, the idea that my classmates and I value the rituals of Remsel so much that we would seek them out ourselves proved that the values ingrained in us from our time spent at Remsel has become as important as the graduation ceremony itself. We kept our vows of silence. We adventured capably alone into the woods, and we reached our milestones. Sitting in my little tent alone for 48 hours gave me a lot of time to think. I considered the lessons I had learned both from Momi and Kaisa. I searched for a deeper meaning, but it didn't take me long to recognize that the very essence of each of their practices had left an impact. Among the regurgitation of information about the life cycle of a bee and how the queen is formed, I thought to myself, wow, this is the same exact information I had learned before. All of the complexities had made their way into my brain from both Kaisa and Momi saying the same exact things. How could such complex information be the same when both keepers practice in completely different ways? And that's when it hit me. It doesn't matter what little details each beekeeper found important or which ones they didn't. What matters is that they felt the sense of rhythm and ritual in the way that they performed their tasks. They found processes that grounded them and made them feel confident in their craft. That's the importance. I understood why it didn't matter that one of them wore protective clothing and the other didn't. I know that going camping isn't something you need to have done to graduate high school, but to me it is. And going on the Remsel trips and keeping the traditions passed down to us is something that I find grounding. It helps me to go through the test of time. So, I implore everyone here to find the rituals that they feel grounded by, as the act of life is one big ritual. Thank you. And now to the stage, Patrick Thompson.
What does it mean to learn? Take a moment and think about it. Is it an action, a mindset, some combination of the two? Many see it as a multifaceted concept. Nowadays, though, there is a new variable in this equation: machine learning. How is it that the machine can learn? Hi, my name is Patrick Thompson, and for my senior learning experience, I spent 3 weeks working with the machine learning company Tensor Networks. Going into my SLE, I was so excited for the opportunity to be involved with a company doing something so innovative. But there was one small issue. My main contact at the company was involved with multiple projects and companies, and as a result, his time to engage with me directly was very limited. So there I was, sitting at home at my desk, twiddling my thumbs, thinking about how much I would love to be applying myself. I was repeatedly taken back to what my internship at the Denver Post was like last year. It was right in the action. This was not that. This was me, sitting at home, doing almost nothing. I felt as if my whole SLE was a waste. I felt so much guilt for not taking advantage of this opportunity that I'd been given. Through this boredom and guilt, though, I realized something. If I wanted to truly get something out of this experience, I needed to find a meaningful experience myself. There was no one guiding me in the right direction, so I took accountability for my experience and I started researching. I started scouring website after website, gathering as much information as I could, and I read it. It started off simple with what machine learning truly was. Then I was learning how to create data sets. Then I was learning what a tensor core was. What? Okay, I still don't really know much about that last one. I ingested so much information to the point where I finally felt as if I could start to grasp the concepts that I discussed with my expert. 3 weeks is a long time, though, and I eventually hit a wall. There was nothing else I could do without devoting more time than I had available. So I decided that I wanted to try applying what I had learned. I attempted to compile a data set that I found online, and I almost got to the point where I had my own machine learning algorithm. When building a machine learning algorithm, there are 4 steps. Step 1, setting a goal. What do I want this model to do? Step 2, finding a data set. This will allow your machine to learn and inevitably achieve your goal. Step 3, training the model on that data set. And step 4, applying the model. It's now achieving the final goal. Something I noticed, though, is that these steps are exactly the same as how I was able to initiate my own learning process. I set a goal by wanting to learn more and apply myself. Then I found my data set through research. Then I learned and trained myself on the material. Finally, I applied the knowledge to my original goal. So, do we all think like robots? Of course not. Humans and machines are both able to consume and retain lots of information. This is what we share. The thing that separates us, though, is that at the end of my SLE, I was so happy that I was able to make the most of my time. I felt so much pride in the fact that I was measurably more knowledgeable, and also that all of this learning happened because of my own initiation. Humans have this innate ability to learn self-accountability. Machine learning models may be able to learn how to distinguish objects from each other, but they are also limited by the fact that they can only do what they are told to. Humans, on the other hand, are able to initiate learning through their independent actions, and afterwards, we feel pride and accomplishment, unlike machines. So here's a question for you. Because machine learning models do not have self-initiative or pride, does this mean that they don't learn? And my conclusions, yes. When we rethink about what it means to learn with this new realization, it is clear that learning only happens when a person has a want to learn. If there is no want, there is no initiative, and therefore, there is no learning. So remember, the more you want to learn, the more you actually will. Thank you. And now I would like to welcome to the stage Piper Bochmann.
Can I have the thing? Oh, thank you. Is it just this middle button? I got it. Okay. Ah. Hi. Okay. Okay. When I first stepped into the house of my mentor, I stood frozen at what I first saw. I was greeted with huge, majestic, framed posters of different films and documentaries. I was in awe while staring at them. It was almost as if I was walking down the Hollywood Hall of Fame. Instead of walking through the same school hallways on a Monday, I was walking into a house where so many amazing films were crafted and put out for the world to see. Though I was just looking at movie posters, I could perfectly picture all the unique stories each one of them held. At that moment, I forgot all about my anxiety I was feeling seconds before. I was no longer worried about what I would even take away from this experience. I was simply eager to be a part of a project that was much bigger than myself. Hi, my name is Piper Bochmann, and I worked as an assistant movie editor under an award-winning documentary editor. When I was given the contact of a movie editor, I was shocked. As any teenager would have done, I fantasized about being a part of a Marvel or A24 movie. But when I sat down to call my expert for the first time, I quickly realized that this wasn't going to be the case. I would be working on a documentary about rock climbing. I, like most people, did not know much about rock climbing, so you can imagine that I felt a little underwhelmed. I thought that working on a flashy action movie or the latest comedy would be the only way to have a meaningful internship experience, but I couldn't have been more wrong. I love everything about movies. I love the breathtaking cinematography, the creative world design, and the lovable characters. But strangely enough, what has always drawn me towards the film world is the editing. People don't usually think about the editing process while watching a movie, but they are the most crucial part of the process. Imagine trying to watch a 60-hour Jurassic Park movie without any bone-chilling dinosaur roars or any comprehensive conversations. Without the editors carefully crafting the timeline, the films we know and love would simply be a jumble of people talking and stuff happening for no apparent reason. However, editors do much more than just cut down hours of footage and add sound effects of rain or people's footsteps. Editors give each story a purpose. Their job is to tell the watcher why the story is meaningful and compelling. And that's exactly what I learned how to do over my 3-week internship. My internship started with me sitting in front of a huge, intimidating screen. The first thing my mentor did was show me around the editing software we'd be working with. It's called, there we go. It's called Premiere Pro. Then he explained in grave detail about the main project that I would be dedicating my time to. The project was about a rock climber named Emily Harrington, who was aiming to successfully climb up one of the most brutal mountains in the country. I assumed that it would be your average overcoming a difficult challenge story, but there was much more to her story than I had anticipated. He started me off with small tasks, like manually writing out parts of the script and cutting down interviews, but as I became more familiar with what the movie was about, I found that my disappointment was quickly turning into curiosity and excitement. Even though I was doing tedious tasks, like spending hours searching through different interviews of Emily Harrington just to find another way she said the words 2008. Yes, we actually spent that long going through all her interviews to find a different way she said it because we didn't like it. And I was skipping through 12 hours of footage from over a decade ago just to find the right scene of one of the characters climbing. At the same time, I was becoming deeply invested in their stories and personalities. Watching all the one-on-one interviews with jaw-dropping stories, watching the main character breaking down halfway up the wall because she was exhausted, and watching her relationship with others change and grow, it was exhilarating. They didn't feel like fake characters that only existed behind the screen. These people were real. They were living real lives and having real experiences. And this documentary we were producing was going to allow viewers to go on this emotional journey with them, just as I had. Near the end of my internship, I realized that I would much rather be working on a documentary like this one rather than another blockbuster movie. My SLE experience helped me realize that being more open-minded about the content we decide to watch is beneficial because real stories are even more valuable than fabricated ones. While having entertainment content is important, it's also important to not let it overshadow the content that captures authentic human experiences. No fictional story can make you sympathize with someone as much as you would with a real person. It's stories like these that help remind us of all the remarkable things we're able to accomplish in our reality. I came out of the internship feeling like I had spent my time on something valuable. A movie that wasn't just meant to entertain, but to teach, that everyday life is also worthy of being on the big screen. Thank you. Thank you. Now presenting Ian Bothwell.
Thank you. Pushing for discomfort is not only a want, but a must. Let me repeat that. Pushing for discomfort is not only a want, it's a must. All right. My name is Ian Bothwell, and for my internship, I went to Echo Mountain Ski Resort, where I learned how a whole ski resort operates. Let me start here. I reached out to over 50 different companies, and one stuck out the most, that being Echo Mountain. When I got my contract signed, I was petrified, like I am right now. When I saw the description, it said area management. I was thinking to myself, I'm probably going to be picking up trash. Well, there was so much discomfort and so uncertainty leading up to the 3 weeks. Walking in to the office on my first day was terrifying. Picture me, a 17-year-old, walking in with jeans and a flannel, while everyone else in their mid-20s or older, in their whole ski gear. It was the scariest thing ever. I did not fit in. Thankfully, after a 30-minute meeting, I was given a jacket and changed into my own gear. I was told I would be doing lift operations all week. And if you've ever gone to a ski resort, you've probably seen the lifties just standing around, bumping chairs, and you think to yourself, that's probably an easy job. Well, there's some truth to that, but it's so much more complicated than it seems. First, there are so many procedures and so many instructions that you have to keep with. The first 3 days, I wasn't sure why they even allowed me to be there, especially helping control a lift. There was so much life at stake. They kept throwing unfamiliar words like shivs and haul rope. It got even more complicated the next week when Brian, one of the lead mountain operators, asked me, "We're going to make snow tomorrow night. Do you want to come along?" It was not very clear what I would be really doing, but I immediately said yes. When given the opportunity to make snow in the middle of the night, I was bouncing around my head, what is going to happen? Showing up at the resort at 7 at night, seeing night skiing lights shining bright, I met Micah, another mountain op. We went through everything that's about to happen. I was unsure what's going to happen next, especially when he started putting on his helmet. I followed with uncertainty and put on mine as well. We started walking. In this moment, my comfort zone was being pushed. We jumped on a snowmobile and headed to the shop. It was this big garage in the middle of the resort that had everything in it, especially the water pump. He showed me everything around, and we walked to these big snow guns. And let me just say, it's a crazy feeling when it's 8 p.m., below freezing, you're on the side of a run, skiers are flying by while you're headed towards the snow gun, and believe me when I say this to you all, I was overjoyed just to be there. Just because I was expecting something new and totally different. For making snow, you need 3 things. First, fast, cold air, fast water, and the most important thing, bacteria, just to form the crystals. After having everything set up, it turned into babysitting. Making sure the snow was landing in the correct spot. The whole night, I was making sure I was understanding everything correctly. And to this day, I still have no clue what I did that night. Eventually left Echo around 2 a.m., feeling grateful for my opportunity and happy with myself. The last thing I was able to do was spend time with ski patrol, learning how to make complex knots and even some basic training. They asked if I'd be willing to be a patient, and so they can practice and train. And again, with no question, I said yes. There you can see me even training with them. That's a toboggan, pulling the rope, pretty nice. This whole experience taught me not how a ski resort functions, but how to push my boundaries and overcome my worries. I'm grateful for the knowledge I gained, and especially the free night skiing pass. I'll leave you with this. Next time someone asks you if you want to do something and you have some interest, but you have no clue what you're about to do, take that opportunity or you'll regret it. Thank you. All right. I'd like to bring up Alison Spiegel. Oh, yeah. Whoa.
Kids love worms. And they don't just love worms. They love getting their hands messy. They love playing in the dirt and in the grass. And they love looking for all sorts of small bugs and worms. When they find the worms, they love making houses for them. Or do they? Is this really the case? I want to challenge the idea that all kids love worms. Some might think that all kids are into drawing, all kids like candy, all kids like playing sports. But in reality, this isn't true for everyone. All kids have different interests, experiences, and ways of learning, but all kids have curiosity. Hi, my name is Alison Spiegel, and for my SLE, I spent time with 2 different organizations. I worked in agricultural education, as well as with an experiential learning micro school. While my days look different between the 2, I found a common and overarching theme. That would be how crucial it is to provide education and learning with no limits to all kids. During my internship, one of my days was spent with 4 to 6-year-olds. I spent this time allowing the students to get their hands dirty and experience the soil and that resides within it in ways that were engaging to students as their own individuals. We provided magnifying glasses along with soil samples and left no other instructions to aid the search. This was after my expert and I gave a mini lesson on the basics of worms. We talked about what they are, what they do for the earth, what they eat, why they're important, why we should protect them, and how we should protect them. You kind of get the idea. While the students explored the matter, my expert and I didn't point out everything about the worms. Instead, the kids experienced it themselves. The kids were thinking about it, and most importantly, the kids were asking questions. In brief, we provided them with important and understandable information about the beings that were soon to be right in front of them, and then allowed their minds and curiosity to be the true driving factor to their own learning. Some of the kids loved getting their hands dirty and digging through the soil and looking for the worms. And once they found them, they were ecstatic. They held them so carefully and showed all of their friends and pointed them out. But not every student was keen on holding the worms or digging through the soil. Some viewed the worms as like, whoa, super cool. And then there were others that were like, that's pretty icky. Many were excited to experience the movements of the creature as it moved in their hand. But like I said earlier, not all of the kids I worked with loved worms, and that was okay. Those that wanted nothing to do with their hands holding the slimy worms still participated. The kids that didn't want to physically touch the beings were intently paying attention and peering over their friends' shoulders. They were asking so many questions, and they were participating in a way that might have looked different to those that were actually holding them, but in a way that was just as valuable. These kids were experiencing it. These kids were thinking about it, and these kids, again, were asking questions. That's what learning without limits is. Why put a boundary on the way students should learn? Why do we think the only way to teach children is by giving them a strict structure? I also worked with middle schoolers during my internship. They had already established projects that they'd been working on when I showed up. These projects were super open-ended. And to give some insight into how open-ended they were, the project topics ranged from things like fashion to the Sand Creek Massacre to service dogs to LGBTQ rights. The task? Research deeply on a topic that intrigues the student, put together a timeline, and present their findings in an authentic way to the student and to their project. Over my short time with this school, I truly understood why limits on learning should be removed. The students were conducting interviews with experts on their topics via Zoom, phone calls, or even meeting in person. The students each displayed their timelines using different media, and the same was true for their final products, which I sadly wasn't able to see come fully together. But because of the extensive work that they put into learning and creating, they became their own experts in their topics. This, too, is what I mean by learning without limits. The teachers at the school were also there for support and resources to guide the students. They provided them, of course, with outlines on the required pieces. However, they let the students go beyond the guidelines and take charge of their own learning. By not providing restrictions and encouraging the students to grow in their knowledge on the topic, students excelled. So now I'm going to kind of bring it back to the whole agriculture side of things for this little metaphor. When a farmer sows a seed, they don't spend its whole life standing over it and watching each and every sprout happen in real time. Instead, they allow time for it to grow on its own. They leave and come back to it, and they tend to its water, sunlight, and nutrients needs whenever necessary. The plant thrives the most when not overwatered or kept in the sun for longer than needed, but when guided and supported as necessary. This is exactly what limitless education looks like. Children need support, of course. They thrive on support and guidance and resources. But they also thrive when they're able to explore their own mind and learn in authentic ways to themselves. Thank you. And I would like to introduce to you our next speaker, Dylan Smith. You got it.
No? Okay. Oh, okay, now it's working. Hello, everyone. Okay. Take three. Take three. Okay. Actually, that was all perfectly intentional. It was a sham for all you guys. Yeah. Anyway, fear. It's something everyone has experienced. Like me and all the other seniors up on this stage tonight. Or you, in an interview, you're totally not going to blow. Now, imagine you're a fifth grader and you were told to walk in the middle of the woods all by yourself. That seems scary, but some of your classmates are pumped and ready. And the teachers are telling you and your class how rewarding it is and how no one has ever gotten lost. Do you think you could do it? Hi, my name is Dylan, and for my senior learning experience, I was an outdoor educator at Ballarat with my good friend and classmate, Cadence Gamba. Ta-da! Going up to Ballarat is always an adventure, and for many kids, it's exciting, but for others, it can be scary. It's a new place with new teachers, activities, and environments. And it wasn't just scary for them. I as well was with new teachers and doing new activities in a new environment. And I was in charge of all these kids? Now that was scary. For those who don't know, Ballarat has an activity that every fifth grader, teacher, and high school leader in Denver Public Schools has a chance to experience. Leaders at Ballarat always introduce the night hike as challenge by choice. You don't have to do it if you don't want to. But having the opportunity to be up at Ballarat for 2 whole weeks, okay. But having the opportunity to be up at Ballarat for 2 whole weeks, I saw something in that night walk that a lot of people don't mention, whether it's a fifth grader, teacher, or adult who did it decades ago. It's the discomfort in the experience that makes it the most valuable. Many kids are fearful when they first hear about it, and I can't blame them. There was a student one night from Denver Language School, and they were not excited about the night walk. When we started it, we circled up and took in the scenery, and then slowly let kids walk back down by themselves. They got tapped on the shoulder once, a signal to walk down, and shook their head. They weren't ready. A few minutes later, they were. They were given another opportunity to conquer their emotions they had to ultimately take away a good, powerful memory. By the time the teacher and I were back, that student was glowing and so happy they did it. They stepped out of their comfort zone, and so did I during my SLE. As cliche as it sounds, I had to push my way through fear to make myself a better leader. I had to raise my voice, lead by example, and make sure all those kids were having a good time. Just as they stepped out of their comfort zone, and by doing something courageous in a scary new environment, I did as well. Quote, "Fear is a limiting factor. It pushes you down. But growth can be the little voice in your head, wondering what you can achieve. Breaking through those mental barriers and overcoming those challenges makes you stronger, makes you an achiever, and most importantly, ensures you don't blow that interview." Thank you. Okay. Now, I'm going to introduce Xander Stiles. Yeah.
Thank you. Hello. All right. Even if you've never worked on something as complex as an engine, you've been in a situation that you didn't know how to handle. It's part of the human life to experience detours and roadblocks, but the important thing is what you do when you experience them. A nice thing about being a human is that we are all experiencing the same world, just from different points of view. We move along our individual timelines so that we get the opportunity to interact across generations, looking for the chance to mentor and the chance to learn. In a lifetime, the average person meets thousands upon thousands of different and unique people, each with a different understanding of our world. From family members and friends to colleagues and strangers, each encounter we have, no matter how small, adds another layer of tapestry to the tapestry of our lives. Each person in our lives is just like the part of an engine, with some being more important than others, but all being needed to properly function. Hi, my name is Xander Stiles, and for my SLE, I worked at a motorcycle repair shop in Los Angeles, California. So there I was, in the middle of this motorcycle repair shop, looking at the open engine of a Yamaha dirt bike with a torn-apart clutch. As I was standing there, I noticed just how many pieces surrounded the clutch and were actually inside the engine. This piece of machinery staring back at me had over 3,000 individual parts that each played a role in seamlessly powering the bike. And I was looking at it, trying to find that one single piece that was causing all the problems. On my first day, I was introduced to the amazing Italian motorcycle mechanic, Alfonso Califano, the owner of the shop and a part-time racer. Within minutes of introductions and exploring the shop, I was told to go replace the battery in a motorcycle. I was expected to maneuver through a maze of parts and bolts to achieve this goal. Those of you who know me here at Remsel understand my love for tinkering, taking things apart, and putting them back together. So I was very excited to jump in and start working on this spectacular piece of engineering in front of me. But the truth is, I didn't even know where to begin. I looked at it for a while and tried to figure it out on my own, but I knew I was in way over my head. So I reached out to my expert for help. Just like the individual parts of a motorcycle, each person in your life brings something unique to the table, whether it's a perspective, experience, or relationship. All of them change the way you interact with and navigate the world, or in my case, help me figure out how to change the battery of a motorcycle. As a matter of fact, it was the friendship my parents built with their friends that got me the introduction to our favorite Italian motorcycle mechanic. Consider the diversity of each interaction you have daily. From casual conversations with friends, from casual conversations with strangers, to deep, meaningful conversations with loved ones. Each interaction shapes our understanding of ourselves and the world around us, much like the various parts of an engine. These interactions come together a cohesive whole, driving us forward on our journey in life. The interaction of me replacing a battery was just the beginning of the roadblocks that I faced during my SLE. Whether it came to replacing a tire or doing a complete engine rebuild, my expert and his colleagues would help me around each obstacle to increase my understanding of the issues I was facing. That's when I realized that just like the engines I was working on, we humans have our moments where we break down or just need a jump start to keep moving forward. Miscommunication, conflict, and misunderstanding are all a major part of the intricate landscape of human life. Yet it's often through these roadblocks and detours that we grow and learn the most. In the grand scheme of things, life is a lot like driving a vehicle. It has a million moving parts, it's messy, unpredictable, and sometimes downright chaotic, but it is also beautiful, exhilarating, and full of endless possibilities. So the next time you find yourself navigating the twists and turns of life, remember that the engine powers it all. The countless connections, experiences, and relationships that make us human and make life the wonderfully complex journey that it is. Thank you. I'd like to welcome the next speaker to the stage, Cadence Gamba.
Thanks. Hello? Okay. It's 6:40 a.m. The lights get flicked on, and all the little fifth graders zip into their jackets and all the way up to their chins. Eyes barely open, they march out into the cold, brisk air that turns their noses red. I petition for silence. I have them follow me for a few minutes into a gorgeous clearing into the woods. I then have them circle up. I explain what the next 10 minutes are going to look like. Then I send them on their way. Our silent sunrise reflection time has begun. Hi, my name is Cadence Gamba, and for my senior learning experience, I got to work at the place where I've dreamed about visiting, but was not able to, like most fifth graders in TPS. Finally, 7 years later than most, I attended Ballarat. While interning with Ballarat, I was given the opportunity to really jump in and lead any part that I felt passionate about. Without any hesitation, I knew I wanted to help run the Sunrise Hike, one I believe to be overlooked by the infamous solo night hike, yet one that has equal importance. So let's get back to that story. I have now challenged the most ambitious species on the planet, fifth graders, to sit still and quiet for 5 minutes. I know, practically an impossible task. Minute after minute, I watched them squirm and sit in the uncomfortableness of their own presence. Many of them just spent that time looking around at their surroundings and placement of friends. Once the 5 minutes were up, I challenged them to do the same thing again. But this time, I wanted them to find a location with a different perspective. As I said go, it took less than half the time than the first round, and almost every single one of them already had a spot in mind that they desired. I then observed for the next 5 minutes real stillness and what looked to be like real reflection. This trend seemed to continue with every group I worked with. During that second round, all the fifth graders had a lot more freedom when selecting the place they wanted to reflect in. Almost as if the first round was just checking out all of their surroundings and their options. That ability to have choice was something I didn't find enough value in until it was taken from me. I've been on 2 senior solos this year. The first one was conducted by the school. They picked the overall location in each one of our individual placements. I was so excited about the overall experience that I had no problem with the requirement to do it. Yet, I didn't feel any attachment to the piece of land my tent laid on. Unfortunately, that solo had to end early, and I never got to experience that full 48 hours. So, a few weeks ago, 11 students and I decided to make that happen. We felt like we really needed to experience it. So we did. And we picked the day. And we picked the location. And I even got to pick where I placed my tent. Within the first 20 minutes, I knew this felt better. And this is because I had choice. I was able to put myself into a situation that I could connect with. I finally understood what the fifth graders had experienced. The second they got to pick a place that they wanted to reflect in, it had way more meaning. When they obtained the ability to reflect in their own way without a prompt, the overall experience elevated. By having choice, Meaningful experiences become more authentic. When you have choice, you get to shape an experience in a way in which you desire. The overall outcome is far greater, and that's why it's important to not only seek out choice, but give others the opportunity of it as well. There's a reason so many middle schoolers look forward to high school. That ability to pick your electives, choice makes learning more authentic. There's a reason so many high school students look forward to college. Getting to pick something you're interested in and undertake it. When you give a person the ability to choose, you are empowering them to make the best choice from themselves. I get it now. I now see why my parents let me choose between which vegetables I wanted to eat. Why teachers give us 3 options on how we want to demonstrate our learning. And why my babysitter let me pick between 5 or 10 minutes before we left the park. Because it should always be my choice. And I know what my last big choice was. What's going to be yours? Thank you. Next up is Eleni Bebeka.
Hello? Oh, okay. These questions keep coming up in my mind. Am I smart enough? Am I capable? How will I reach my goals? Others don't think I can do it. Why should I? Look up. There's no one on the stage. Are you confused? Are you searching who's speaking? Recognize the silence while it's still there, even when my voice is in the background intruding on your inner thoughts. Take a moment and close your eyes. Do you seek any discomfort or nervousness? Now take a second and open your eyes. Would you trust me if I told you that the way you were feeling a second ago could be an attribute to self-doubt? Hello, and welcome. My name is Eleni Bebeka, and this is a snapshot of how I felt throughout my internship at Rose Hospital. A simple, dark, yet thrilling sensation for what will happen once the lights are turned back on. The sense of being confined in the darkness with bombarded ideas racing through my head, though heading to a whole new environment with a bit of light at the end of the tunnel. Knowing I'm on the right track to my future ambitions, to become a doctor. But sometimes people that we least expect it from knock us down in order to get back up. I want you to think of a time when someone or something made you anxious or uneasy, causing you to have negative ideas about yourself. Once you have that answer, keep it in mind. Now, let's embark on a little journey of mine. Looking back on February 12th, 2024, the day I first went to Rose Hospital, being a little concerned because I didn't know what to anticipate. However, depending on what we choose to accept, the unexpected can be inspired by creativity and can create illusions in our imagination. According to Cynthia Path, the worst enemy of creating is self-doubt. Self-doubt can be manifested in various forms, one of which is compared to one's self to another. This occurred when I met my physicians I interned with, Dr. Anna and Dr. Rosemary, both whom are outstanding independent women who are developing their own practices, but most importantly, are compassionate doctors. My worry was not how welcoming they were or that they were kind doctors, rather than their education and how they never failed a subject and how the lowest grade was a B+. This was when I began mentally comparing myself and my grades. However, grades do not predict how good of a doctor you will become, or do they? I had to remind myself to stop overthinking. I am not Dr. Anna and I'm not Dr. Rosemary. I am my own person. Moving on to the 4th day of my internship, February 16th, 2024, on a Friday afternoon, eager for a weekend to unwind and begin a new week. Somehow, one thing that would continuously irritate me was patients, particularly older women. I'm sorry. How old are you? Are you 12 years old? Are you even old enough to work here? I was asked these similar questions on a daily basis. It wasn't only the fact that they assumed I was young that affected me, more or less my brain doubting me that I looked young enough and I wasn't able to be a doctor. Though this shouldn't impact me, right? I mean, I'm just in high school, not even in college yet. But wait, I'm going to college in 3 months, practicing pre-med, and yet there are patients telling me I look too young to become a doctor. Though age is just a number, I shouldn't let this affect me. My last week came about, February 28th, 2024, and I started to realize that I didn't want to leave my internship. I loved the community. I built relationships with people in the clinic, and patients started finally remembering my name, and they would feel comfortable talking to me about anything. Of course, there was additional comments, now from older men, wondering if I wanted to be a nurse instead of a doctor. And some of the people around me started hammering me down with questions like, do you know how difficult medical school is? Are you sure you're wanting to go into this field? Do you know how hard it's to study medical school? These questions were posed on a daily basis before I began my internship, but hearing them during my internship anchored me to the wall. These were questions that caused me to reconsider my entire future life, making me doubt myself and believe I will be unable to attain my goals. I insistently began comparing myself, and in the dark and gloomy feeling of being self-doubted suddenly arose. However, the gloomiest of thoughts will unlock the brightest of thoughts, such as having a realization. Those dismissal ideas reflected on how I saw myself. But I realized that no matter grades, no matter the comments, no matter what others thought of me, my mental stamina stems from my own mindset. I must believe in myself. Self-doubt keeps you in the dark, but believing in myself let me see the light at the end of the tunnel. From the time we're born, we have been taught to obey the same rules, act like one another, dress like one another, and even dance to the same rhythm as one another. So, what does it mean when others say, be yourself? If we compare ourselves consistently to others, do you feel self-doubt? Do you doubt yourself consistently? Let's find out. You're holding a piece of paper that was just handed to you, which has various of numbers on it. Each number symbolizes a distinct question that I will ask. If you agree with the question, make sure to write one of the question's number. Let's get started. Question number 1. Are you meeting the goal you've set for yourself? Question number 2. Are you allowing situations beyond your control to stress you out? And question number 3. Do you have bad thoughts before falling asleep? Take a look at your paper and think about your perspective on self-doubt. How will you make an impact on how you change your perspective on yourself? Wake up and take action for yourself. Thank you. Next up, Henry Leboeuf.
Hoorah. To begin, I'd like to introduce you to a student named Ryder. Ryder is a kindergartner with a kind heart who would sit next to me every time he had my class. Ryder liked to give gifts to his friends and gifted me with numerous objects on multiple times, including this. This said Texas, according to him. But continuing on, one of his favorite things to do was to cut out little paper hearts and give these to his friends. And while describing these hearts as hearts was kind of a generous statement. And one day, I witnessed two of Ryder's friends discussing the two hearts that they had received. And one of them said, "This doesn't really look like a heart." To which the other one said, "But it makes him happy giving him to you, so you should be happy getting one." Listening to his friend explain this, he said, "You're right." I'm Henry Leboeuf, and for my SLE, I was an intern art teacher at my old school Creative Challenge Community, otherwise known as C3. C3 is a school that focuses on giving students a hands-on approach to learning and also developing their character, a school I personally attended. As an assistant art teacher, I did many exciting things, like sharpening pencils, handing out clay, and drawing these. But back to Ryder and his friends. I was astonished with the level of emotional maturity on display in this singular instance. I don't think the same outcome would have occurred had it not been for C3's early introduction to character-based education. Now imagine if Ryder went to a different school. I personally doubt that he would have been treated as kindly as he was here. And that's what character education is all about. As described by studies done at MSU, character-based education stresses the importance of helping children learn and practice behaviors that reflect universal ethical values. This includes teaching children multiple character values. Take Remsels, for example. Our school's character values are responsibility, integrity, discipline, courage, and compassion. Values I think that we all agree every child should have. And while I was at C3, I wasn't personally expecting to become enthralled with the strong emphasis on character-based education. Having gone to C3 since I was in kindergarten and then moving to Remsel in 6th grade, which we all know is a school that also heavily focuses on character-based education, I can say that I am who I am today because of this model of education. And due to the students I worked with, I've grown, wearing my heart on my sleeve. But to move on, character education is essential to the solution to bullying and physical violence in schools. These are the two biggest issues that face the world of education today. These two threaten the safety and foundation of our entire educational structure. And the effects can have long-lasting and devastating impacts on not only students, but families, teachers, coaches, and even whole communities. How many of you in the audience remember a time where you've had an experience of bullying? We got a popular crowd today, I see. But recent studies of elementary schools across the country show that nationwide, 1 in 5 students report being bullied. During 2021 alone, 67% of public schools reported acts of violence. I know that these are rather concerning metrics to hear, but this is what character-based education is meant to fix. In a study conducted at Rowan University on the effectiveness of character education within 3 schools after the implementation, or before and after the implementation of a character education program. And the study includes students from kindergarten to 5th grade, and their behavior can be seen here. As you can see, lots of bullying and physical violence. But later on, post-implementation, the numbers significantly dropped to this. To see better and in a more visual way, here's a graph that represents the same change. What can be seen is a huge drop. This drop is almost 38% lower than it was before. And I believe for these reasons, if it was to be integrated into more and more schools, that we could seriously change the world of education, especially if adopted at an early age. Take, for example, the students at C3. In the unusual occurrence of not seeing any bullying or physical altercations despite expecting to see it. I believe working alongside my K-5 art teacher really taught me to view character education as a means to view our differences in a respectful manner, as opposed to combating one another. I'm Henry Leboeuf, and this has been the Character of Young Minds. Thank you so much for listening. Up next is Malia Moorman-Tezak.
Testing. Oh. Okay. Yes.
A 17-year-old girl roaming the streets of downtown all by herself. Walking with a bag and keys in hand, she's just a block away from the gym. Unfamiliarity drowns her mind as she enters a gym packed with people and slamming equipment. Being the youngest one there by far and one of the few females, she's intimidated. Hi, my name is Malia Moorman-Tezak, and for my SLE this year, I participated in 2 experiences, shadowing a carpenter and a fitness and nutrition coach. Being in a new environment with new faces, personalities, and stories can be intimidating, yet a solid group of people can turn it into a positive adventure. The intimidation that began my first impression quickly dissolved as I set down my bags and began talking to people. Throughout the 3-week period of that our SLE encompassed, I balanced time at the gym mentoring Nick and Obi finishing a basement. The schedule varies day to day, as some held both experiences packed into one, while others were spent at one location at a time. Managing 2 differentiating experiences was not my original plan, although everything ended up falling into place as it was meant to. My original plan fell through at the last minute, and determined to find a solution, I reached out to 2 family friends in hopes of aligning our schedules. Both of these people built their businesses through networking and their strong sense of maintaining connections, similarly to how I got this internship. Both of these men are entrepreneurs and gain success through the connections that they share and maintain. Obi is currently, and for the past year, been completely building and finishing a basement all on his own. He wanted to start this business because he's a perfectionist and cares about his work and effort put in. Highly skilled and passionate for the work he chose, he explained to me how many in his profession half-heartedly finish tasks, making it appear sloppy in hopes that others will fix their mistakes. Nick rotated between 2 different gyms in the middle of the internship, yet maintained his same clientele because of his well-built foundation. These people trusted Nick with their time, money, and effort as they pushed themselves to their limits. I observed his coaching through clients at the gym, as well as nutrition coaching through Zoom sessions. He was extremely generous with his teaching, as he would pause with each client to give me a brief explanation of what exactly each thing meant. These entrepreneurs found a passion that drove them undeniably and are set aside from typical companies due to their high skill level and maintained networking systems that proved to their clients their high worth and ability to stand out. While mentoring with the 2, I did a lot of heavy lifting. I carried boxes and boxes of wood floor pieces down a flight of stairs. I carried weights from a rack to a client. I dumped bubbling concrete onto the floor. I placed 45-pound plates onto the bar. Although I did a lot of mentally heavy lifting as well. I had conversations with many varying adults that I never would have expected sharing similarities with. Stoic conversations with people who I never would have guessed to bond with. Zach, a client of Nick's, now has his own construction company that's highly successful and once lived in a van in Mexico. Life takes its turns and bumps, and you'll never know where it'll end up, although the passion and community that envelops you will always give you a sense of direction. My main takeaway throughout this was the power of community. The connector that signifies our similarities is the bonds we share and the people we hold close. Spend time with those who inspire you, encourage you to become your best self. The people within your community and which you share will guide you to the top. Being a good human is how you build success and community at the same time. Push past intimidation and build a positive community by putting the effort into maintaining it. Thank you. And next up is Jonathan Shvartz.
How we doing? All right. Good evening. Tonight, I would like to take you on an adventure through something we all have but frequently ignore: time. Time is a mysterious and intangible power that influences our lives in ways we might not fully comprehend. I want you to reflect deeply on this question: how frequently do you pause and genuinely value time? In today's rapid-paced society, it's simple to become engrossed in the chaos, to be enslaved by our schedules, and to allow time to elude us like sand slipping through our fingers. But what if I told you that by developing an appreciation for time, we can unlock an entirely fresh realm of satisfaction and happiness in our existence? What if I told you that the secret to experiencing a more abundant, more purposeful life lies in embracing the fleeting essence of life, of time? My name is Jonathan Shvartz, and for my SLE, I stayed at school and planned a massive part of the upperclassmen civil rights trip. During my stay at Remsel, I completed my entire senior portfolio and even prepared for this very moment. The biggest reason why I'm so proud I ended up at school was because of the opportunity I was given to lead the entire upperclassmen through the civil rights trip. It all began when I walked into Graham's class and asked, "Is there anything I can do?" We both stared at each other and said nothing awkwardly until Graham spoke. He said, "I've got something for you." Graham then introduced me to the trip's timeline and added, "You see this day? You're in charge of it." At first, I was convinced this was a total joke, but then I looked into his eyes for a few more seconds and realized that he was serious. This was the moment that I realized that my stay at school was going to be a different experience than I thought it would be. For the rest of the week, I spent countless hours researching and even outside of school about the history behind Camp Amachi, which was a concentration camp for Japanese Americans during the war. Whilst this all happened, some of my friends who were away during SLE asked me how boring school was, and I told them that I was working on something special, something that hasn't been done by a student before. After many hours of research, I had about 6 whole pages about the location ready and memorized for the day, including the map of the entire camp. When the day arrived, I was full of excitement. Just a few knew that I was going to be the tour guide for the day. When we arrived at the camp, I knew it was my time to shine. I was prepped and ready. At every stop, everybody circled around me as I explained what life was like in the camp and what certain buildings were. As a leader would, every location I talked about, I received great feedback from my peers. I was so proud of this moment that I even wrote an entire essay about this for the Remsel newsletter. This experience truly taught me that everyone is capable of doing difficult things and learning if they try hard enough. Instead of just sitting at school for 8 hours and doing nothing, I made the best out of the opportunity and developed greatly within just a small period. So, how can we learn to appreciate time in our own lives? To appreciate time, we must practice mindfulness. By being fully present and aware, we can truly experience the beauty of each moment. Rather than getting caught up in the past or future and always worrying about things at the wrong time, we can focus on the present and all it has to offer. As a great example, people at Camp Amachi were mindful and aware, which gave them the name the Loyal Camp, due to their mindfulness and awareness of their situation, which ultimately improved their lives and led to 0 violent deaths in the history of the camp. That also means knowing the difference between your wants and your needs, and knowing what actions you must take to satisfy yourself both mentally and physically. On top of that, by being mindful of the present moment and fully engaging with our experiences, we can enhance our perception of time and find contentment in any situation. Whether it's a simple act of gratitude towards a friend or a moment of stillness to appreciate the beauty around us, mindfulness helps us recognize the abundance of blessings in our daily lives. And like the people who were forced to live in Camp Amachi, living with this style of life does open a realm of more joy in every life. People who don't go on an SLE never get this opportunity to come up on this stage in front of a crowd and talk. Some people who did get an SLE wish they were never here. But I just felt like this is something that everyone needs to hear. With that, I strongly urge every single person in this room to reflect on their relationship with time. Be more mindful and aware of time and the present like the people of Camp Amachi. Because after all, the present is called the present because it is a gift. So when you live here today, ask yourself, how much do you value your own time? Thank you. Next up, I would like to introduce the one and only Milo.
Hello. Sick. Thanks. All right, cool. Hello, everyone. So I'm going to tell you all a real quick story. For this story, we're going back in time. At this point, I am a sophomore, and I've been put up on stage to perform for the very first time at an open mic. The entirety of our high school's attention is directed right at me, and I don't even remember the lyrics to the song that I'm about to play. I'd only known I was going up about 10 minutes beforehand, and the only reason I was going up is because a senior at the time by the name of Aidan told me I was going up. He's actually in the crowd right now. And I didn't really have enough time to register what that meant or what was happening. And so, unprepared, I desperately tried to jog my memory for a song to play. And at this point, I had been playing guitar for 10 years, and so pretty well practiced. But I'm stiff and I'm freezing up, and I get on stage, and miraculously I begin playing. The song that came to the forefront of my head was an Eddie Vedder song called Rise. So I play the intro riff, I lean into the mic, I take a deep breath, and I completely black out. I'm gone. I played the song, but all I remember is walking off stage and nothing about the actual performance. Hello there, my name is Milo Welte, and I actually did not have an internship experience this year, very sadly. But despite that, I am up here to talk to you all about my experience in running Remso's First Friday, an event that we hold on the first Wednesday of every month. So after performing my very first performance, a ton of people came up to me with really encouraging words, and that was really nice. But what I enjoyed most about that was talking about the song itself to those people. Whether they were asking me the name of the song or telling me that they liked the guitar or the lyrics, I loved that so much. And so after that, Aidan, the organizer of the First Friday, gifted my friend Piper and I, the one talking about editing, with the responsibility of organizing the event. And since then, we've been running it, and I try to get up on stage whenever I can. And it's really nice, because music has always been a huge part of my life. I have always really loved listening into the little intricacies of each and every song, from the instruments that the artist uses to the lyrics, and especially how it all comes together to express something, to convey an emotion. The way music is able to do that has always completely baffled me, because there's such an incredible range of human emotion. And still, depending on each and every little detail of a song, that emotion can be conveyed perfectly. Now, what's even crazier about it is that it can be shared. And for me, that's what's so special about performing a song on First Friday. For my entire life, I've always been kind of a big feeler, if that makes sense to you all. I get goosebumps whenever I stumble across a song that portrays a very big emotion. I think that's wonderful. And so when I find one of these songs that speaks to me in some particular way, First Friday is my way of really grabbing my high school's attention and being like, listen to this is really cool. And furthermore, the act of sharing during these First Fridays is mutual. I think that whether or not any of the students that come up and perform recognize it, they are sharing a part of themselves, a feeling. And also, by taking the time to learn a song that you really like and practicing it until it is at the point of being performance ready, you're actively making an effort to connect with your audience. And so a little while after, I began performing at the First Fridays, and this realization became more and more clear to me. I really, truly started to recognize how vast the ways in which people express themselves are. In art class, I began to notice how every detail of someone's painting or drawing is personal to them. I noticed this connection in my friend Henry's baked goods that he brings to crew lunch in tenfold. And I noticed it in my mom's cooking. Shout out to my mom. Great cooking. Each of these works is simply an expression of the human experience. It just comes out in different ways depending on the person. It is all art, and it all contains feeling. Now, the importance comes from the act of sharing it with others. That is how we find connection through our shared experience and the immense range of emotion we are gifted with. And now I'm talking to each and every one of you specifically. If I could look you all in the eyes, I would. But if there's anything that I want you to take away from my SLED talk, it's that each and every one of you has your thing. And whatever it is, right? It could be poetry, writing, baking, cooking, theater, ceramics. For me, it's music. I urge every single one of you to try and find a way to share that with others. For the act of sharing your human experience, your experience of being human, is not only a fulfilling one, but also how we as an entirety connect. Thank you. And now, I would like to welcome up onto stage Eli Sarche.
My bad. We got a good-looking audience tonight. Oh, shit, my bad. Sorry. Okay. First, I just want to acknowledge, I'm kind of nervous right now. I'm not going to lie. But please bear with me. On my way here tonight, I looked around at every person and object that I saw, and I became hyper-aware. Aware of how every person's individual life is equally as complex as mine and the next person's and the next person's. I thought about the complexity of each person's biology, the individual body parts that make up their body, and the atoms that make up those. Everyone is so complex. And this complexity applies to everything if you just stop to think about it. And for me, this was my internship. Hi, I'm Eli Sarche. And this year, I was extremely fortunate to have the opportunity to do beekeeping as my senior learning experience. This opportunity came about because my mom had a work trip to Hawaii. She and I had been talking about what I could do for my internship, and so when she happened to mention to her friend at work, he suggested that I just join my mom on her trip and do beekeeping with their friend Momi in Hawaii, on the Big Island. I was so thankful that Momi not only accepted me as an intern, but also my steadfast friend, Faye, who, when she overheard me talking about it in class, was interested in doing the internship as well. There was one problem, though. Internship was 3 weeks long, and Hawaii would only be covering 2. So that's when, through the wonders of Google, we connected with Kathy Gill, a respected beekeeper in Golden, Colorado, who was willing to help us for the first week. This worked perfectly, because even though beekeeping in Colorado is much different than beekeeping in Hawaii, Kathy still prepared us with the basics of beekeeping and care. She taught us about brood, bee babies, hive conditioning and cleaning, honey collection, and the basics of how beekeeping works. Because of the cold winter weather in Colorado, though, we didn't get to do any work with any active beehives, as they were all dormant. That brings me to Hawaii, the cream of the crop in terms of beekeeping. In Hawaii, we engaged in a ton of beekeeping activities, all of which were leading up to the big experience of doing a hive inspection and honey harvest with Momi and her family's hives. Our beekeeping experiences included meeting with the professor, Lorna Susumi, at the University of Hawaii, Hilo, to learn about the beekeeping certificate that she taught. Visit the UH Hilo farm, meet with a student to hear her beekeeping business pitch, visiting a meadery where they make honey wine, talking with honey producers at the farmer's market, and getting hands-on experience with beekeepers around different parts of the island. What really fascinated me about beekeeping was the complexity of it. I mean, just look. Wait. Oh, my bad. Just look, a seemingly wooden box, but uncap it, and a whole colony of 50,000 bees awaits inside, each contributing to the colony in their own individual way. Some worker bees, some drone bees, the queen bee, and thousands of jobs in between. With just a quick peek under the lid, a whole vibrant colony is exposed. The bees inspired me to look closely at my own life, to look at the things with an open mind, and consider the complexities of things that seem simple at surface level, but have more going on underneath. This has helped me in life to respect the ordinary and to see the extraordinary. This is applicable to your life. Take that apple that you had this morning. Just another apple, right? Wrong. Think about the billions of unique microbiomes and the multitude of physical properties that make up the structure, and boom, taking that first bite of the apple with a knowledge of the newfound complexities, a deeper meaning is obtained. When you put people into the equation, the whole thing changes. To understand that each and every person has an equally complex and multifaceted life as your own helps you gain a deeper appreciation for emotions and understanding, allowing for people all around the world to connect through a shared respect for each other's opinions. Looking a little closer and appreciating these complexities helps you to lead a more meaningful life. We are all guilty of taking things for granted, myself included. But with intention, we can appreciate things more. One event that comes to mind, personally, was that I recently went to the park with one of my close friends. All we brought was a cloth, a football, and some snacks, and we had the best times of our lives. Passing them all amongst each other and enjoying each other's company and putting aside any differences that we may have. At one point, we just looked around at the scenery that surrounded us, observing the sunlight shining through the leaves and the birds and wildlife thriving in a shared ecosystem. We noticed a similarity to ourselves, the interconnectedness of it all, from a seemingly simple environment. Noticing these complexities is what makes life beautiful. This allows us to see the beauty in the simple. So go ahead, give it a try. Go on that trip, eat that apple, look at that tree, hang out with that friend, go on a walk. Go find the extraordinary in the ordinary. Thank you. And now I would like to welcome my dear friend, Emerson Ingraham, to the stage. Give it up for Emerson.
Hello. Okay. I'd like to begin by asking you, as the audience, to take a moment and imagine how you would react if I had come up wearing some athletic shorts and an old t-shirt. Would you have felt cheated? Would you have assumed that I was unprepared? I didn't care about this SLED talk. This idea of professionalism is one of the most important things that I learned during my senior learning experience, or SLE. Good evening. My name is Emerson Ingraham, and for my SLE, I was a physician. 4 times a week, I traveled to 2 different hospitals. 3 days a week, I worked at Presbyterian St. Luke's, and once a week at the Rocky Mountain Pediatric Ortho 1 Clinic in Golden. It was at these practices that I shadowed my expert, Dr. Rachel Brewer, as she visited with patients and showed me how doctors utilize different aspects of professionalism to manage a professional practice, maintain vital patient relations, and demonstrate aptitude daily. Every day, I witnessed how a professional practice is run. Dr. Brewer had a clear operating protocols for how staff should interact with patients, including how to greet patients, take notes, and analyze medical histories. Each morning, Dr. Brewer would brief me on the patient cases for the day, showing me x-rays and allowing me to compare what I saw in them to what she saw, giving me opportunities to apply the knowledge I was learning in a real-life situation. We would then move into the actual patient visits, in which Dr. Brewer would model how to engage with patients and make them feel comfortable and confident in both her abilities and the resolution of the injuries. On top of running a professional practice, Dr. Brewer also showcased the numerous ways that she is able to maintain meaningful patient relations. Whether it was through a phone call, an in-clinic visit, or an email, Dr. Brewer was always connecting with her patients. Regularly, she reviewed patient information, monitoring their progress to ensure that she provided the best care possible. Her end goal was always the same: guide her patients back to a healthy, injury-free life. The final and most important aspect of medical professionalism is the knowledge. Not only does Dr. Brewer have to know the different bones and their possible injuries, but she also needs to know their remedies. Bones are very complex. They can bruise and they can break. And if they break, there are a myriad of ways that they can break. For example, younger children are more prone to buckle fractures. In a buckle fracture, the bone in their arm or in any limb crinkles, sort of like a soda can. Breaks can be immobilized in one of 3 ways. splinting, bracing, or casting. Of the three, casting is the most complex. It requires finesse to ensure that the bone is immobilized while still allowing room to regrow. I was able to experience this firsthand as I was fortunate enough to practice casting. Through several different attempts, examples here, and observations, I learned the finer details of casting that allowed to provide the necessary space for the bone to heal. By carefully first insulating the arm with padding, then layering the fiberglass over, the purple part, the bone is both protected from the outside and also is mobilized in the correct position to repair itself. It is a bit of a tricky process that first requires wetting the fiberglass in water, and then activates the glues, and then you wrap the limb like this, right? And then methodically and quickly so that the fiberglass doesn't dry while you're doing it. And then it also will, and you want to make sure that you're layering it properly so that you don't pinch the skin of the child, and then it will cause discomfort and pain, and that's bad. So after the break is wrapped, after the break is wrapped, so basically, okay. After the break is wrapped, you put the cast on the arm, right? So, and then what you have to do is there's glues within this fiberglass that have to be activated. So what you have to do is you have to just rub it down and pinch it so that it forms around the arm and holds the break in place so it'll repair properly. So Dr. Brewer, let me put this back. Dr. Brewer proved to be a very patient and empathetic doctor and mentor. Every day, I would observe how she would not only show up to the practice wearing professional attire, but also how she treated everyone around her with the same level of respect and attention in order to make them feel more comfortable and cared for. She guided patients through examinations and treatment plans in ways that was child-friendly and compassionate. She was adept at assuring each family member understood the treatment plan, securing their trust. I chose Dr. Brewer because I really like helping people. She showed me it is possible to do so. For me, professionalism is an essential skill that I value and appreciated seeing it applied at the pediatric level. In translation, this means that treating everyone with respect, providing information in a straightforward, easy-to-understand manner, and really listening to patients to create the best possible outcomes is a brilliant example of professionalism. Thank you so much. Up next, we got my good friend, Aidan Kelley.
Wow. Can you guys hear me? Okay. Wow. All right. Well, oh. This is important. All right. The owner of Lava Box, Josh Thurman, walks up to me during my senior learning experience and says, "We should make a video of us going down a mountain, doing snowboard tricks over a lava box." At first, I'm looking at him like, what? And then I was like, all right, okay, let's do it. So next day, I got all my snow gear on, and we're headed up to Berthoud Pass. I was able to film us going down the mountain, jumping over the lava box, and hitting jumps. This is that video I filmed right here. And there's the lava box right there. And then we got hitting over the jumps. The last guy coming up is my intern expert, Josh. There he is hitting over. But yeah. And then right here we have the lava box itself. My name is Aidan Kelley. And this part of my internship really stood out to me because the amount of fun I had. When we were on our way back down to Denver from heading up and filming, was work. And I had fun doing it. I don't know about you, but personally, becoming an adult, I don't want to be sitting around and doing a job that I don't truly enjoy, and struggling through each day. I want each day to be a different adventure, and don't get me wrong, I worked hard and learned from each of the employees, from production to packaging, shipping, to marketing, and learning how Josh tapped into overseas manufacturing, how incorporating service work and giving back to the community and environment For instance, Lavabox created a partnership to tackle wildfires called Project Little Bird. Through Project Little Bird, for every Lavabox sold, they donate $1 to save our rivers. And yeah, during my internship, I also found that having routine mixed with random adventure promotes more productive days. Having this structure showed me how I can succeed. I have to say this experience has gotten me excited about being my own boss as an entrepreneur. I know that it'll be challenging and incredibly rewarding. Josh has shown me that it requires self-discipline, and it's about embracing both freedom and responsibility, and it's going beyond the business and finding the balance of having fun. I know that there will be hard days, but I continue to explore and have ideas and having fun doing it. Having fun is my main takeaway from my internship, and having structure and strong discipline while allowing fun is how I want to be an entrepreneur in the near future. Thank you for listening to my SLED Talk. And now I introduce Sienna up to the stage.
Huh? What? Oh. Okay. Imagine being an artist. You've been drawing, painting, and sketching your whole life, and suddenly an opportunity arises with a medium you haven't quite tried before, like cutting metal, welding, and building large structures. Art is all about stepping out of your comfort zone and trying something new, but sometimes change is scary. I know a lot of artists, and most of them are very comfortable just doing what they're used to. I'm one of those artists. Hi, my name is Sienna Flanigan, and for my senior learning experience, I interned as a builder and sculptor at Flocus with my family friends, Josh and Gio. Starting in this internship, I never really knew what to expect. Almost every single day was different, and sometimes that was difficult for me since I'm usually a person who likes a solid schedule. I remember when I walked into the studio for the first time. I was pretty nervous because I didn't know what I could and couldn't touch. I remember seeing a lot of fragile stuff and thinking, oh my God, if I accidentally break this, they'll fire me for sure. This medium was a lot more fragile than what I usually work with. There were limited amounts of pieces that we had, and they were very valuable, so there wasn't too much room for mistakes. The resources we used in the studio were mostly all metal-based, and it was more of a constructive-based internship than anything else. In the very beginning of this internship, Josh had told me that a lot of this experience would be learning where I fit into the sort of ecosystem that they had in the studio, and a lot of it would be consciously figuring out what would be most helpful in certain situations without being told specifically what to do. This was all very, very new to me, since most of my life has consisted of being told what to do and how to do it. But in this studio, it worked more like a machine. Every person in it was important to how the community worked and functioned, and I became a part of that machine. I'm going to be honest. I don't think there was a single day where I was doing the same thing as the previous day. Sometimes I was working in the studio, cutting metal or welding pieces together, and other days I was working in the office and sketching out ideas for new builds, like the armadillo car I was working on with my experts for an upcoming music festival. Now, for a person who doesn't like change very much, it was difficult a lot of the time to get used to it like everybody else was. Throughout this internship, I stepped way out of my comfort zone in terms of what medium of art I use. And I had to learn to adapt to that change. I had to learn to adapt to the change that was constantly happening around me. For example, when I would sketch out an idea that I really liked, the rest of the team would give me notes and change around the idea until it was a cohesive project that we agreed upon. It was very interesting working on an art project with many other people because it's different from just having my own opinions on the work. It was a new change that I eventually adapted to, and I found myself actually enjoying working on the projects with them, and I really started to value their input. Whenever I would create a new part of the statue, something that I was really proud of, I found myself getting attached to the way it was and how well I did, and my experts taught me a very important lesson. They told me to never get hung up on one piece of art, because if you think you've perfected it, you will never get a chance to find your true potential. They also taught me that changing up environments every once in a while can bring a lot of new experiences and opportunities into my life, so I should never shut down the chance for a new one. Thank you. I would now like to introduce Arwen Tompkins.
The first day I walked through the doors of the middle school classroom, I was greeted with pure chaos. Children falling out of stairs, falling out of chairs, throwing pencils, oh, there goes one, laughing and filling the entire room up with noise. I was terrified. I wanted to appear cool to these tweens. I wanted to be someone they could also laugh with. More than anything, I didn't want to interrupt their fun. The entire 2 weeks of my first internship, that's who I was. Another kid sitting there laughing and causing disturbances. I lacked the character values that you see around these halls. Welcome. My name is Arwen Tompkins, and I would like to tell you about the courage it takes to teach and why they stay. And no, I'm not just trying to appeal to the people who hold my grades. Unlike everyone else you'll see on this stage, I spent the past 3 years on the same internship at the same place, Odyssey School of Denver. The next year, after I wanted to appear cool, I grew up with those 7th, now 8th graders that I had sat with. I still laughed and caused the occasional disturbance, but I had looked at myself and realized I needed to step into the shoes of all the teachers whom I admired over the years. Now, I want each of you to think about one of your favorite elementary school teachers. It could be Miss Frizzle, and put yourself into their shoes. Imagine standing in front of a sea of eager faces, each one a universe of untapped potential. Now, imagine the responsibility that rests upon the shoulders of a teacher, the responsibility to ignite curiosity, foster critical thinking, and instill a love for learning. But, my friends, parents, staff, this task is not for the faint of heart. It demands courage. The courage to navigate through uncertainties, to challenge the status quo, and to champion the cause of knowledge in a world that often undervalues its significance. So, what is this courage I speak of? It's a courage to embrace vulnerability, to admit when we don't have all the answers, and to learn alongside our students. It's the courage to listen, to truly listen to the voices of our learners, recognizing that each and every one of them brings a unique perspective and story to the table. It's the courage to innovate, to experience with new methods and technologies that transcend traditional boundaries and unlock a new realm of understanding. But perhaps, above all, it is the courage to care deeply about the holistic development of every child under our guidance, knowing that our impact extends far beyond the confines of the classroom. It is about being a mentor, a role model, and sometimes even a beacon of hope in the lives of those we teach. Of course, as I said before, there is struggle. Let us not romanticize the journey that teachers go on. If I had told you to think about a teacher you hated, I know that every single person in this room could also think of at least one. Those teachers who you all despise were overcome against apathy, inequality, and systemic barriers that threaten to derail every staff member that you see in this room. But history has shown us time and time again that the most significant revolutions begin in the hearts and the minds of educators, the brave souls who refuse to accept the status quo and dare to dream of a better tomorrow. If I may, I know the person who challenges the status quo is Eric Dinkle, who fights for every student who steps into this classroom, and the only one who my brother, Ethan, actually liked here. This person is Jessie, who came back after leaving and returned again after having an entire child. This is Leah, who stepped up in the math role while her job description is entirely different. It's your favorite kindergarten teacher, 4th grade teacher, 7th grade teacher, and Miss Frizzle. And so, as I stand before you today, I am reminded of the countless unsung heroes who walk among us, teachers who, despite the odds, continue to inspire, to innovate, and to ignite the flames of curiosity in the hearts of their students. I witnessed this over the course of 3 years, between checking in with students individually, to planning trips so that people could join them, to pushing past their personal issues to be with their kids. These instances inspire me, though I understand that teaching may not be my calling anymore. Their legacy is of courage, a legacy that reminds us of the transformative power of education and of the profound impact that every single individual can have on the course of history. So, as we approach Teacher Appreciation Week, and as we are in Teacher Appreciation Week, think about your favorite elementary school teacher. Fight for them. Show them you care about the work they put this into the school. Let them know you recognize them. Tell your kids to behave and pay teachers more. For our final SLED talk, I would like to welcome Isaac Contreras onto the stage.
Hello? Oh. Last one, guys. Okay. While you sit and stand in this room, think about your home. It's probably clean, with clean running water and air conditioning. You have constant access to technology and healthy food and medical care. Medicine, steady income, a job. Now imagine the conditions I'm about to describe. Now imagine living in the conditions I'm about to describe. Minimal power, minimal running water, unclean and unsafe housing, an outdated phone, a computer, an old TV, very little to no health care. Medicines and vaccines are so hard to get. You're likely unemployed. You probably have an old busted up car. Burning clothes to keep the fire going to last a cold night. You may think that these living conditions are unheard of in the US. You'd be wrong. My name is Isaac Contreras, and for my senior learning experience, I worked with the nonprofit organization, the TP Raisers. Ooh, there we go. The TP Raisers help indigenous peoples on the Pine Ridge, Navajo, and Hopi reservations. These reservations are overrun with poverty, drugs, alcoholism, and more. Eric Dinkle had asked me if I wanted to lead the reconnection between Remsel and the TP Raisers. I saw this as an extraordinary opportunity, so I jumped on it. Within a month, we had started the Woodchopper crew. Every Monday after school, a group of students would cut wood behind our school's playground from 3 to 5 p.m. After cutting about 4 cords of wood, which is about 128 feet of wood each cord, we went on our first trip up to Pine Ridge, South Dakota in November, where we helped deliver and unload the wood we had cut and stacked it all up. That's us right there. Cutting, yeah. Pretty cool. We got to meet some of the families up on Pine Ridge, and it was an eye-opening experience to see the conditions that these people are living in today. For the next 3 weeks, I worked up at the TP Raisers Hub in the Lafayette. Some major people and leaders of the TP Raisers, all of them very hardworking. Of course, you got Dave, somewhere in there, I hope. A strong-willed man with a soft heart, the face of the show. Lori, an amazing behind-the-scenes worker who helps with fundraising and communications. Mackenzie, a social media master, telling the stories through the media. Nabi, a tribal member who we were able to meet and hang out with on both of our trips up to Pine Ridge. Truly an amazing man. And some others who I have not yet met, including Amy Whitepipe, Jamie Ghost, and Tom Hollowhorn. I hope to meet them all in the near future. At the TP Raisers Hub, they have a herd of 12 horses. These horses are integral for the community and events that the TP Raisers put on, like their annual ride up to Pine Ridge. They've even been called to do other rides, like the ride they did up to Mount Blue Sky, formerly Mount Evans, in support of changing its name.
Not only that, but bringing people together, bringing youth from the reservations down to meet and ride with some kids here. A very important and necessary connection. I was able to cultivate a relationship with the herd, especially the cute and cuddly Luna and the lovable Chante. The continued support has brought, The continued relationship with Remzel and the TB Raisers has brought me a lot of amazing opportunities, like tagging bison up at Colorado State University to eventually be set to release in the wild and on reservations, or like the Lakota Star lesson at CU Boulder Planetarium, where we learned about the Lakota people and how they used the constellations made up of different modern-day constellations as a sort of calendar to help them track the movement of the bison herds and other important events. As of now, the Remzel Woodchoppers have cut over 20 cords this year and delivered about 15 cords up to Pine Ridge. Now, I hope you all have at least one question in your mind. How can I help? There's a very simple answer. You can look at their website, QR code. You can donate, you can visit the hub, you can do service at the hub. You can come to the Nagi Circle, like the one happening Saturday, May 18th. You can donate wood or axes or money to Remzel. All are good ways to help out. Help the people living in conditions I described earlier, put there by the government and kept there due to poverty. Thank you for listening to my SLED talk, and thank you for coming. Wopila!
All right. Wow. Thank you so much, everyone who carved out a little bit of time to come see us on a Thursday evening. It means the world to us that you are here and for your presence. I hope you leave tonight taking away one of the many lessons that our amazing seniors and 9th through 11th graders have introduced for us tonight. I just wanted to also thank everyone in the community for your support, without which we would not be able to have experiences like you heard tonight. So thank you for your support, thank you for your questions, thank you for supporting our students, and for all of the students who, whether this was your first year doing an internship, your first year learning about this whole process, like myself, thank you for the ongoing struggle to create meaningful experiences like this. So another round of applause for our seniors for presenting tonight. Congratulations, seniors, congrats. And as you leave, please drive safely, stop through and ask questions if you have any. Otherwise, seniors and students, you deserve some sleep tonight, yeah? Okay, great. Thank you so much for coming.